Hello, and thanks for tuning in. Real quick, we just wanted to let you know that we're doing a collab with our friends over at Neckbeardia. We'll be launching part 1 on our channel and part 2 over on their channel, so please pop over there and send them some love. Link is in the description. Tell them Rip Daddy sent you. If you're here from Neckbeardia, please let us know in the comments so we can stamp your passport. Also, quick reminder, the 50k sub celebration extravaganza game is approaching real quick, and we're all super fired up to play some D&D with you all. We just did a session 0 to playtest our characters and house rules, and it was awesome. So pucker your butt with us and stay tuned as we approach the threshold. That's all I got. Thanks. Enjoy the video. Share your funniest D&D story. Part 1. It's pretty damn juvenile, but the frost giant penis always cracks our group up. We were on our way to a northern dwarven city, and we needed to clear out some wendigos that were threatening a town on the road. We did some investigating and learned that wendigos could be lured using rotting meat. So we headed out to a castle ruin where they were rumored to be. Rumored is spelled correctly, I like that. Dragging a bucket of rancid meat along with us. As we headed into the castle, we found a frost giant blocking our path. We had the brilliant plan to lure the wendigos to the giant and they could take care of each other. We spread out the bucket of meat, and then I used prestidigitation to make the frost giant smell like rancid meat. Then the DM said, "What part of the frost giant?"
Oh, I know. The penis, I guess.
Laughter. The battle plan failed. We had to fight the wendigo, which detected us before they got the giant, and then we almost got clobbered by the giant as well. The wendigos paralyzed the paladin, and I had no choice but to put him in the bag of holding to stop him being killed and run towards the frost giant. I pulled him out on my next turn Pokemon style. He had beaten the paralysis save while in the bag, and he killed the giant in a single blow. Critical hit, 80 plus damage, using the DMG overwhelming damage rules. We managed to survive, but based on the sheer hilarity of the battle, we took a trophy, the frost giant penis. Then began the crazy series of events. Firstly, we snuck it into the bed of our dwarf PC. He had been away for that session, so we retconned it as him being away, and then he used it as a club against us. Noticing it was rotting, I put it out into the snow, which of course summoned another wendigo. Knowing it needed to be preserved, we decided to find a taxidermist in the dwarven city. Enter Begrulf, the possibly autistic, taxidermy-obsessed, monotone-speaking, half-bearded dwarf. Not only was I impressed the DM was actually allowing us to get a giant penis stuffed, but he actually made a hilarious character for it. We became obsessed with Begrulf. He agreed to taxidermy the penis, saying it would take 5 days. We still visited his shop every single day we were in the city, buying an entire zoo of stuffed animals. Half a dozen stuffed rats and mice, a stuffed snake, a stuffed falcon, a stuffed owl, and a stuffed goat. The Tiefling Ranger fell in love with him, asking him to accompany our party during the big battle to save the city, before realizing he would almost certainly die. She also had to explicitly proposition him for sex, as he simply did not get a hint. We saved the city from a Dwergar invasion and took another fire giant penis as a trophy to be stuffed. It turned out that we had given him more business in a week than he'd received in 5 years, and that he had been able to renovate his shop, promising us he'd deliver the second penis to our hometown. Since then, the penis was used as a great prop for drama and distractions, almost never failing, but we decided we wanted to go further. Enchantment. We sought out a wizard to enchant our frost giant penis with the power of flight. After a long time haggling, we got the greatest line ever. "I'm going to enchant this penis with the power of flight, and you're going to be happy about it." We have 2 months until it's ready, and then we have a fire giant penis lined up to be enchanted with fireball. It's not much of a story, but here goes. Last session, we broke into the Redbrand's hideout and came across a group playing dice. We were dressed like Redbrands, so rather than attack us, they just questioned what we were doing there. I told them we just got off duty and wanted to pass some time. Then one guy at the table said,
"You don't look familiar. Why haven't I seen you before?"
So I said, "Oh, we normally work a different shift, but we got moved around because Greg went and broke his ankle. We're here to fill in."
I just barely failed my deception check, so the DM had them grow suspicious of us and start reaching for their swords. The man replied,
"I don't know a Greg either."
At this moment, I knew I had to think fast or we'd be in for a fight, so I blurted out the first thing that came to mind.
Okay, I'm gonna level with you guys. We aren't here to cover for Greg. We're actually from HR, and we've come to investigate rumors of inappropriate behavior in this workplace."
Sadly, I rolled low again, and after a few confused seconds, the Redbrand screamed out,
"Wait a minute, we don't have an HR department."
All in all, it didn't do much, but it did get the table laughing pretty hard. Edit. Also, our group name is now the HR department, so that's cool. My player played a Scion, who had a spell which made his eyes light up like cars' headlights. He walked around a dark dungeon along with his group, killing everything in sight. While in the area where he knew there would be a boss nearby, he silently walked up to a door and looked through its keyhole, while his eyes were still on. The monster boss saw the light coming through the keyhole and broke down the door, which hit the scion's head and knocked him out. My very first D&D campaign many years ago, our group consisted of a human fighter, myself, halfling rogue, elven wizard, human paladin, and a very stubborn dwarven monk. We were pretty deep in a dungeon at this point, and we came across a very narrow section of tunnel leading into what looked like a labyrinth. We could hear noises of creatures down in the maze, but could not see them. We determined they were hiding in the many offshoots in the tunnels. The dwarf monk turned to us with an amazingly stupid idea. He wanted to draw these baddies out into the larger tunnel to fight them instead of being forced to fight in the confined space of the maze. He took the rope from the rogue and tied it to himself. He instructed the paladin and myself to hold on the other end and said, "Watch this." He took off at a full sprint into the tunnels, screaming at the top of his lungs. Instantly, we hear terrifying noises of ghouls attacking our great monk. The rope goes taut and he yells, "Pull!" The paladin and I roll well on our strength checks and heave the monk and half a dozen ghouls that are attached to him back into the larger chamber. We proceed to defeat them, and that's how you go fishing for ghouls. So one of my groups, 3.5, had made it to epic levels. All players were like 25th with no multi-classing, and the next part of the campaign was to break into the inner 3 layers of hell to free one of the major NPCs that had knowledge that could help them defeat the demon hordes. I decided to make a guardian of the inner layers, and I fashioned him after one of my favorite game characters, Kratos. This dual wielder was amazing. Had to roll 15 to crit Vorpal blades, etc. You know, the works. So the party's fighter, Nick, leads the way and challenges Kratos to a one-on-one fight to the death. Before the battle, he asks me if his in-game wife, cleric level 23, can ready a spell, but I can't ask which one. I allow it because I'm curious and like surprises. So she prepares her spell and he goes to fight Kratos. Now, Nick is dual-wielding scimitars, wins the initiative, and they just start annihilating each other. He gets Kratos for 15% of his health in the first round, because Kratos has some DR, and then Kratos comes back to take almost 100 hit points in 2 hits. Nick takes his move action to drink a healing potion, and then flops his attack roll with a nat 1. Kratos laughs, crits on 2 of his attacks, and beheads the fighter. Suddenly, the cleric casts True Res. Nick's hands shoot up, catch his head, and slam it back onto his neck, at which point he screams, the severed portion heals up, and he jumps back and says, "Nearly headless Nick ain't got nothing on me." One of my groups is a bit unusual in their methods. It's all good and fun, and the campaign definitely has an absurd humor thing going on, but sometimes I really do wonder what the hell is happening. There wasn't really a punchline, but the whole session was just one absurd thing after the other. This group, 5th edition, is made up of an animate halfling skeleton death cleric who worships an entity only known as the Pope, a warlock who has the mighty Fey Lord George W. Bush Jr. as her patron, and an actual mouse named Old Cheeser, who wields a 2-meter greatsword and describes her mother as Mousy. So there's a large canyon in my homebrew world, and they wanted to go to the other side. The only way to do that is to either take a 4-month detour or to let yourself get thrown over the canyon with a magic catapult. So they enter the small village where the catapult is located and learn that there's a serial killer roaming around. Leaving the village via the catapult or otherwise is forbidden until the murderer has been found. Instead of trying to find out who the murderer is and going after the clues I distributed throughout the village, they decided that it's a lot faster to just frame a random person in the village. They decided that the daughter of the local mayor, a very impressionable youth, was the perfect target. She and the other young people in the village were looking forward to the concert of a famous gothic bard named Shadowplay at the time, and most of them were dressed in black and were talking about the cruel void that is life without actually knowing what that means. So my party proceeded to convince Shadowplay to let them construct the stage decorations for her, as well as convincing the mayor's daughter to hide behind said decoration and jump out in the middle of the concert screaming, "I did it! I murdered them all!" because they convinced her it was cool and edgy. They also convinced another 4 lads to start biting people. The murder victims had bite marks on their bodies. Because my party figured out that framing multiple people is better than framing just one, everything proceeds as planned, and a major panic and confusion ensues. But after clearing it all up, it soon becomes apparent to the villagers that these young people weren't the murderers. So the catapult stays closed. My party is disappointed that their scheme didn't work and follow the clues. They soon find out that there's more behind the murders than just a simple killer, but they decide to team up with the perpetrators in exchange for them helping my group illegally operating the catapult in a secret night operation. So they left the village behind, knowing that everyone would soon get slaughtered, in order to pursue their main goal of visiting the city said to have the best pizza. They would later be led astray by George W. Bush in a thinly veiled scheme to secure a region rich in oil. Afterwards, they unearthed and reanimated a skeleton named Heidelinda, decided that the name is amazing, and currently they're trying to elevate that skeleton to godhood. I threw away my serious campaign notes long ago. I remember one of my groups was tracking down a bandit camp after they stole a bunch of jewelry from some high-end shop. They track them down to their camp, and a bunch are just sitting by the campfire, chilling and swapping stories. They knock out one of the patrolling bandits and decide the rogue should wear his clothes and try to sneak in. He successfully does so, and out of interest, asks the guys by the fire what they're talking about. "Oh, you know, just what we're gonna do when we get our money. I'm gonna retire to a nice field, just farm, and have peace after having been a slave, and it'll all be nice. Yeah, I'm gonna give it all to my kids so they never had the rough upbringing I did. I'd hate for them to find out this is my life. I wouldn't be able to stand their disappointment. The wife left after finding out, and I've had to make an excuse to the kids for her absence. I just hope this goes well for their sake."
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I need the money to help pay for my sister's treatment. She got poisoned on one of her adventures, and, well, I'm not really skilled in anything or adventurous, so I needed some way to get money quick.
My rogue promptly excused himself and reported back to the party. "What'd you find out? We should, yeah, let's just leave. These guys have it rough." It's so funny because now the rogue hesitates to kill bandits and such because he doesn't know what their life is. This is a long post, but it's a great story, so bear with me. Big smiley. I'm currently the DM for my group of friends, none of whom had ever played D&D previously, but who were all enthusiastic to try it out. Our first adventure was Army of the Damned, which is set in Innistrad. Our party is composed of a Kessiger arcane trickster, a Gaviner sorcerer, a Stensian barbarian, a Nephalian monk, and a Kessiger ranger. Our group was nearing the end of the campaign, having just reached Siegfried's stronghold. They cleverly befriended the Dryad, who happily gave them access to the secret tunnel into the stronghold, which exits into the kitchen. The kitchen contains 4 Charmbreaker devils who are busy trying to cook a meal for an angry and impatient Balgura in the next room. I described the Charmbreaker's conversation to my party, which consists of them complaining about the Balgura, discussing their desire to leave, and frantically trying to decide what to put into the stew. Everything ranging from body parts to apples to shoes. Through this conversation, I was trying to demonstrate to my party that the devils were both intelligent and unhappy with their current situation. If approached, they would be more than happy to betray their master in exchange for their freedom, even providing the party with a sleeping potion to put into the Balgura's stew. However, the party member that scouted out the Charmbreaker devils was our intrepid and reckless sorcerer, Thurgood Jenkins. The choice of Jenkins in his character name should tell you all you need to know about his playstyle. Immediately upon completing my description of the devils in their conversation, Thurgood immediately yells, "I cast Thunderwave!" So much for the element of surprise. Suddenly, the Charmbreaker devils are under attack, and the massive sonic boom from the spell has alerted every creature in the stronghold. The party, shocked, tries to engage the devils as the Balgura and his crawling claw minions burst through the door. To make matters worse, although the Charmbreaker devils are very weak, they do have one very useful combat ability: Counterspell. During the first round of combat, the Sorcerer, Arcane Trickster, and Ranger each have a spell counterspelled by the Charmbreakers. The Balgura has engaged with Thurgood, who is in the front, and the party quickly realizes they are outmatched. Most of the party was still in the tunnel at this point, including the Barbarian, who is farthest away from the action. Within the first round, the party reluctantly decides that there is no way to save Thurgood Jenkins and that he must pay the price for his Jenkins-ish behavior. As the party members all begin using their turns in the next round to run away through the tunnel, we reach the turn of Thurgood Jenkins, who acts right before the Balgura. Thurgood, seeing the direness of the situation, looks at me square in the eye and says, "I speak Abyssal, so I want to try and convince the Balgura that I have been sent here by Siegfried to become the head chef for the kitchen, since the devils are clearly so incompetent." I explained to him that my Thunderwave was simply a way of punishing them for their ineptitude. There's a moment of silence as I give him a long, hard look. Normally, I wouldn't allow something so far-fetched to have a chance of success, but I was legitimately impressed that he had managed to incorporate the details I gave him about the Charmbreaker devils into the lie. It was true that the Balgura was very unhappy with the quality of their cooking, so figured he at least deserved a roll. I told him to make a persuasion check. In my head, I'm thinking DC 25. He's a high charisma sorcerer with the persuasion skill, so he needed a 19 to 20 to succeed. Anything else would inevitably result in his character being torn to pieces by the Balgura. At this point, Thurgood Jenkins has a massive grin on his face, and everyone at the table is laughing over his Hail Mary attempt to resolve the situation. He rolls the dice and natural 20. The entire table erupts in cheers and laughter as he jumps from his chair, screaming with pure joy. Based on his role, the Balgora gave his character a long, discerning look and then grunted approvingly, gestured at the stew pot, and advised, "More shoes!" before returning to the other room. Easily one of my favorite moments playing D&D, and a perfect example of why I love this game so much. Hello, my sugary, rosy little glob jamins of pure, glistening, radiant love energy. Thank you for watching this video to the end. We're pissing and shitting and freaking out over how close the channel is to 50k subs, and it's all thanks to your sweet tartan asses, so thank your little poopers for subscribing. Thank you for sharing your stories with us, and thank you for sharing with us your enthusiasm for Dungeons & Dragons. Rip Daddy and BM Voices got their first taste of D&D combat and roleplay last night as we play tested our characters and house rules, and as expected, everybody rolled hot trash except for me, who fucking killed it because Druid. Although I did burn 2 instances of lucky in 1 turn, but I really meant it, so miss me with that shit. Anyway, back to business. Please keep sharing your stories and feedback in the comments. Check out our Discord server and say what's up sometime. Sub for Nat 20s and hug somebody who needs it. Thanks again for all that you do. You are loved. May the dice ever be in your favor, and we'll catch you next time.